And welcome back to another episode of Down with the Browns. Let's get it. Woo, 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 woo. So little technical difficulties because we thought we were going live.
Is it like Groundhog's Day? Is
it's,
Just start over. It's just
we
one.
thought we were live, but that was good practice. So KFC, our original host, is is gone and he's hanging out the beach. So I'm the producer today. So Mac is our co-host joining us as usual. So is Ed in Columbus. Shout out to Ed. All right. How we feeling, guys? How we feeling?
It's one of those things to where you have an eventful weekend and then everything just comes back down to earth on Monday. So ton of head-aching headlines for me. I don't know about you guys, so I'm just kind of ready to get into it.
I'm ready to talk some Browns. Ed, how are you feeling?
I'm feeling great. And let's pull back the curtain a little bit to Mac's statement right there. Mac had a little fun this weekend because what the audience doesn't see is that we have a friendly rivalry. It is a one-sided rivalry like Ohio State, Michigan, and I'll get to that. But we do actually get along outside of our confines on the show. And, we had some interactions on Saturday. Mac had a fun time, I hear, but more details to come. But I want to let the audience know that, we're family here, and we love interaction.
Let's get it. Let's get some interaction with some break-ed news, shall we? Oh, look at that! Look at that segue.
You know what? That is A1 professional, Manny. You're doing a great job. You're a scholar and a gentleman.
Sweating just a tad over here, but we're good.
Just a tad. This is Ed in Columbus with your Down with the Browns break-it news. The Cleveland Browns, the running back Ernest Johnson, agreed to a one-year deal. With a re-up Johnson and a full Chubb, the Browns should be in playoff contention and in the hunt. In other news, a 24th complaint has been filed against Deshaun Watson. It now makes the number officially higher than Baker Mayfield injuries and Baker Bro excuses for his last year's play. And finally, Mac the Buffalo is here, but Christian is not. This is not a trade Andrew Berry or this news anchor would make. This is Ed in Columbus with your Down with the Browns break-it news.
All right. I'll take the jab. I'll take the jab.
Yeah, it's a minor jab. I tried to.
A little minor,
little minor jab. And with minor jab, speaking of minor, we got a little 1-year contract deal for Ernest Johnson. Ernest Johnson is officially signed back with the Cleveland Browns for a 1-year, $2.4 million contract, $900,000 guaranteed. And I want to know, guys, what do you feel about this contract? How are you feeling about getting Ernest Johnson back for another year, for another go-around? What do you think the plan is behind this?
I mean, I'll start it off here. I mean, $2.43 million. So it just didn't. I love it, but I don't love it in the sense of now the running back room is extremely crowded. Now. Whether or not Demetric Felton was taking wide receiver snaps because of limited availability on the roster during OTAs or not. So now, realistically, you have Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt, Ernest, Isaiah Ford, and then Demetric Felton, technically, if you count him, as 5 running backs. So, I like this deal if Ernest Johnson gets time. I mean, he had that monster game against Denver, 5.3 yards a carry in 2021. And here's a fun stat for people out there. A lot of people criticized Stefanski for not running Chubb enough. You could argue that they didn't run Ernest Johnson enough. So he had 4 games over 5 yards per carry in 2021. Those were all 1-score games. And in those 4 games, he had either 5 carries or less. Mm-hmm. Now, in those 1-score games, 5 carries or less with 5 yards per game. The Browns went 1-3. So, I like this deal. I like the low tender. I was really surprised nobody else was willing to pay him 2.43. I think he can be a running back 2 in a lot of backfields, across the league. But kind of surprising nobody else picked on it. But I like it. But you got to give him his carries, because he's a damn good running back. So happy to have him back in Cleveland.
Go ahead, Ed. Go ahead. What do you
I'm
think?
a little confused. You got Mac up here saying he loves it, but he doesn't love it. It's like having a piece of steak in front of your face and you're really hungry. I mean, come on, you're going to love it, right? I love this deal. I love what Andrew Berry's doing. Look, How many games is Deshaun Watson going to be suspended? I don't know. You don't know. Nobody knows right now. So what do you do if you're the Cleveland Browns? You fortify that running back room and make it even more, solid than all of the NFL. I mean, name me 4 running backs on another team that can compete up and down with the roster that we have in the running back table room. You know what I'm saying? So I look this way. I always believe this, just like in business and in life, when you have a competitive advantage, and the Cleveland Browns have a competitive advantage on the offensive line and in the running back room, well, why don't you just keep using it? Because even last year, Hunt got hurt. Chubb misses games. I mean, Dearness had, I think it was like 100 rushes, averaged over 5 yards a carry. What's not to like? I think he had like 19 catches for like, I believe it was like 170 some yards. I might be wrong, but I'm not a stat guy. I'm here for, opinions, but sometimes stats back it up, but I don't let that get in the way. I blow past that stuff. So I like what they're doing. I like the move. And another thing too, Manny, I think what it does is if the Browns need to make a trade, I think it makes Dearness Johnson more tradable.
Yes,
he's only a $900,000 guaranteed. You know what? They still got a quarterback, on the roster that they got to get rid of. I don't know. If I was another team, I'd say, you know what? I want Dearness Johnson as well with Baker Mayfield. If I'm going to have to eat some of that, 18 point whatever million, then fine, give me that and see. So I just think it puts the Browns in a better position to make moves when you can. That's how I look at it. If Dearness Johnson's a good player and he's on your team, that just puts you in a better position, whether you use him or you trade him. He's a valuable asset. So I like what they're doing in Berea.
I think that's, you touched on a really good point, and that was going to be my point too. I think that just really reeks as potential trade bait if a running back gets injured during the season. And I feel like, for me, now that you're talking about that package deal, right? I mean, if you send, like, say Seattle changes their mind, week 3, week 4 during the season, you send Baker Mayfield over there, but then now you package a Dearness Johnson who can also be in that same room with Kenneth Walker. So I think that, that rookie Kenneth Walker. So now you're looking at a package deal. Now you got 2 bona fide running backs over there that you kind of really like. You can move forward progressively that way. Dearness Johnson, $2.4 million. I mean, what is that? I mean, you know what I mean? 900,000 guarantee. What is that to NFL teams? So now you bring in that with Baker Mayfield. Maybe then the Browns have to eat less money than they normally would, right? So I think that's a great point that you're touching on about packaging it together and trading. I think that'd be very, very enticing to a team like Seattle. Would you or even Carolina if they want to have a backup to Christian McCaffrey? Because Lord knows, if I was a betting man, I'm not trying to bet on him being injured, but you could bet Christian McCaffrey might stay healthy the whole entire season. What do you guys think about that?
I can't agree more.
Yeah, exactly. So honestly, moving forward, talking about this running back room now, with everything that has been going on with the signing of Dearness Johnson, how do you guys feel about the state of the running back room for the Cleveland Browns going into 2022?
Go ahead, Mac.
I mean, it's the best running back room in the NFL. Let's be honest. You have Nick Chubb, who is one of 7 players in NFL history all time to average more than 5 yards per carry in his whole career.
Crazy stat.
He's the only active one on the list. Now, against stacked boxes, which means 6 or more defenders. With 6 or more defenders in the box, he averages like 2 more yards than expected. So he's the best runner in the NFL. Then you have Kareem Hunt, which I think it's absolute blasphemy that Browns fans legitimately look at Isaiah Ford. Now, granted, I like his burst, I like his vision, but he also played in the All-American Conference. Let's be honest, he would not have 18 TDs in the Big Ten or the SEC. So you look at his biggest games here. It was against Miami of Ohio, Murray State, Temple, Central Florida, Houston. So not saying that Isaiah Ford can't do very well with the best one of the best O-lines in this league. But Kareem Hunt, he's 9th in total TDs since 2017. He is the Browns' X factor. He's better with that on the. I mean, there's a reason why he's the goal line running back and the one of the more trusted pass catchers on in this offense, because what he can do in open space with the football is pretty damn good. So we need to put as people would say put some respect on that man, because Kareem Hunt, I would argue he was the offensive MVP.
I didn't want to correct him. I didn't want to correct you. I didn't want to.
So I mean, I do like Isaiah Ford, but the problem is that not Kareem Hunt. That's the thing,
Mac.
You're
doing it again. You're saying Indians when it's Guardians, because I just saw a comment up there which I didn't want to correct you, but if Manny, or a producer or a guru right there, if you could bring up that first comment again.
What?
Jerome Ford, Mac.
He's got Boomer Sugar on his mind.
Yeah. So, but yeah, Jerome Ford. But it's just crazy, because you look at Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb in total TDs, and they have pretty much same amount of games. I'm pretty sure Nick Chubb played 59 versus Kareem's 58. But he's high up there in total TDs for a reason. He's been Nick Chubb's backup for 3 years, but yet he's the goal line guy in short yardage situations, because he run like. I can't get over it. I can't wrap my mind around this fan base looking at Kareem Hunt and saying, hey, I don't want him on my team. So to sum this all up, the Browns have the best running back room in the NFL, and I couldn't be more comfortable with any other position on the roster.
I have a quick question. I guess. I'll let Ed. Do you want to go first?
I'll be really quick. Look.
Okay, go ahead.
I got the tie on. I'm looking presidential, and I like how you phrase it. State of the running back room, and just like the State of the Union, I will say this: the state of the running back room for the Cleveland Browns is strong. God bless America.
God bless America. But what about? Is it wrong for me to have a little bit of a concern moving forward, because what Nick Chubb, how old is Nick Chubb? 28, 27, 28? I think so. We could double check that. We have Kareem Hunt, older than 25, which I know. And we're also looking at Dearness Johnson, who I believe is also 27. So it's I think about the future for it. So I do like Jerome Ford a lot, and I do have a lot of faith in him. But the problem is, it's like, okay, I love our running back room right now. Right now on Madden, it's unfair. It's right. On paper, unfair. Just in real life, really unfair. But then I'm looking at, like, in the future, it's like, man, oh man, and maybe there's some solace in if Deshaun Watson plays really well for the next 5 years, all yada yada yada. You can turn to a passing offense. You don't have to worry about the run so much. But it's like, a part of me wants to keep this up for a while. Right. And maybe you can do that with a 1-2 punch for Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. But is there some solace? Because I just feel like, is it weird for me to say that we maybe have this season, and am I being too negative at saying that we have this season and maybe next season, and then that's it of the fantastic running game that we have for the Cleveland Browns? Or somebody, you make me feel a little bit better about that if you can.
Running this happens to every team in the league. You look at running backs like Derrick Henry. I think Nick Chubb. Well, hello, LA. Hey. We love our fans. No, man, I think you should really worry about your Celtics, and the state of the running back room for the Cleveland Browns should be the least of your concerns. Now, I mean, they got Chubb under contract. They got, you know what I'm saying, and they got Jerome Ford, and I think they even got Isaiah Ford, his twin brother. I think the room is strong. Look, I understand your point. Now, if you're thinking that, in 2 to 3 years when the Browns are legitimate, I think they're legitimate Super Bowl contenders this year if they get in the playoffs. They're one of those. Right. When you have a franchise quarterback, once you're in the playoffs, you just got to get hot. I mean, did you think the Cincinnati Bengals were going to go to the Super Bowl last year?
Who on earth thought that?
The Browns have a better defense. Man. I think Deshaun Watson's better than Burrow. I mean, I like the offensive line better for the Browns. I mean, I think the Browns team is actually better than the Cincinnati Bengals. Just get me to the playoffs and see what happens. And I would not be worried about the running back room. But you know what, Manning? I like your concern, and I do think the Celtics in 6.
Let's go Celtics in 6. I'm telling you right now. That was just a lapse in some playing their last game. Too many turnovers. So moving forward, there's been some rumors speculating around today, especially today. Per Armando Salguero, the Browns have discussed bringing back one Odell Beckham Jr. And there's been a lot of rumors speculating. I think Browns Twitter, besides the Baker Wars, besides obviously the acquisition of Deshaun Watson, the third most important thing for Browns Twitter to be arguing about is whether or not Odell Beckham should come back or not. And so I have a lot to say about this situation, but I'm going to open the floor to none other than Mac the Buffalo on the situation, and then I'm going to let Ed go. And then we're just going to keep this rotation going. So floor is yours, Mac. Floor is yours.
So I want to start this. I want to start this off by saying I do realize that the whole point, what everybody wants here is to acquire more talent. More talent equals wins. That's fine. We all want the same thing as Browns fans. We all want the best roster possible. But really, this is what we're doing. We're going after a guy that didn't want to be here in the first place. Let's ignore 2019. It was a pretty bad season for everybody. Even though he talked to 3 teams and said, "Come get me," even though he was too worried about wearing gold shoes or a Rolex, than his play on the field. I really don't know what's his appeal. He's had 2 back-to-back ACL injuries on the same exact knee. He's not going to be available till November, December, and you still don't know what he's athletically going to be like. Now, let's look at recent data, right? Because, you got to look at what was the last tape that we've seen. And what we saw is a problem that was only an OBJ problem. Everybody said, hey, it's Baker's problem. It's Baker. It's the quarterback. He OBJ is this great talent, right? So let's go ahead and look at the numbers. Last game that OBJ played was against Pittsburgh. It was Halloween. So here's the passer rating when targeted in the entire wide receiver room. And before anybody gets on me about, maybe they didn't try hard enough, OBJ led the team in targets. So here's passer rating when targeted. DPJ, 151. Kareem Hunt, 126. Rashard Higgins, 126. David Njoku, 114. Jarvis Landry on one leg after spraining his MCL, 107. You have Austin Hooper, who has incredibly terrible balance.
That's an understatement.
Yeah. So now you have Odell Beckham with a 72 passer rating. So if Baker was so horrible, now granted, he did not play well down the stretch. I'm not going to fight John. I was at the Detroit game. It was pretty bad.
Mm-hmm.
But at that point in time, why is there such a drastic gap in the wide receiver room? And it just blows my mind because they took care of him right. They ate some of his contract. Make sure this guy got paid, even though he threw a fit. Went to LA, and that passer rating that was terrible only got bumped by 10 points. He's playing with definitely a better quarterback than Matthew Stafford. So why did his ENTs go up? He didn't cause a single interception for Baker Mayfield, but he went to LA and he caused 3 with Matt Stafford. So, last time I checked, Matt Stafford is a heck of a lot better than Baker Mayfield and won a Super Bowl. So is Matt Stafford the problem? I mean, it blows my mind. Like, what are we doing here, people?
We're having fun.
For a guy that's not even going to be available until November, don't we want to see what David Bell and Donovan Peoples-Jones have? I mean, they took out a flyer on Isaiah Weston, and he made a pretty cool catch in camp. Why are we talking about that? We're talking about a guy that did not want to be here, was telling players like Von Miller. Yeah, and here's the thing, by the way, his tenure was so horrible in Cleveland. They were winning games in 2020, and he was still pouting. I don't understand that. You get paid more when you win, because those playoff games, that's an extra check. Okay, Mr. Beckham, last time I checked, he didn't win a playoff game till his 3rd team. So I really just don't understand what we're doing here. I'm completely baffled by a player that has completely limited availability. He's going to be turning 30 soon. So, what's the point here? There's got to be at least someone out there that can provide more availability, more production, less of a headache. And here's the thing, too. It's OBJ. He's not taking the veteran minimum. Don't sit here and tell me that he's going to take a cheap contract, because he's not. Because everybody kind of forgets about the 3 or 4 days after that whole video came out. They were Andrew Berry and OBJ's agent were arguing over money that he was going to get paid before he got released. So OBJ is 100% about the money. He's not taking the minimum. So I really don't get what the pro is here.
Go ahead, Ed. Go ahead, Ed. Go
You
ahead.
know what? When it comes down to everything Max said, I'm not going to sit here and argue about, his statistics and what went up or what didn't go up high enough when he got out to LA. I'm not going to do that. What I'm here to do is argue for the fans. The National Football League, the No Fun League, is what people say. I like to bring back fun. And here's what I'm thinking, too. If Myles Garrett says he's down with it, Sean Watson says he's down with it, I'm not paying OBJ. Jimmy Haslam is. D. Haslam is. If they honestly, they wouldn't bring him in if they didn't feel like he was a positive influence. Because from what I hear,
Haslams love him.
From what the locker room loves that guy. I don't get it. I don't get it. But
defensive players love this guy. Where's the IG post from David Njoku? Donovan Peoples-Jones spent a whole year with him. He had a whole like several photos.
Now, Mac, David Njoku definitely tweeted out. And so did Donovan Peoples-Jones during the playoff run. They both tweeted out, and Anthony Schwartz. They were all congratulating him. I'm just
congratulations, but not coming back home because they know.
I think you harbor ill will towards him because of. I'm willing to put it in the past. Like it's just a thing about like Baker, for instance. Okay, obviously, Odell is a better receiver when healthy than Baker is a quarterback when healthy. I mean, that's just the facts. Now, I will say one thing. Obviously, it's a quarterback-driven league, and so when OBJ, probably wide receivers, it happened in 1995. The Browns were, predicted to go to the Super Bowl. Obviously, they ended up going to Baltimore the year after that. But the thing about it was they signed Andre Rison, and Andre Rison was a free agent. Art Modell went around, had to get 4 business loans, had to actually get a business loan in his wife, Pat Modell's name, because he was actually running out of money. That's why he had to go to Baltimore. He was hemorrhaging money. And the Browns were his only business. But they brought in Andre Bad Moon Rison. And guess what? Wide receivers, as good as they are, it's the system usually. The Houston receivers back in the day with Ernest Gibbons and stuff. You look at the, wide receivers that are as good as OBJ. I believe the problem with OBJ is when he first went to Cleveland. Maybe it wasn't his first time, but that preseason game that when he got hurt against the Browns, when I forget the defensive back for the Browns. Whatever.
It was Brandon Body Calhoun.
Yeah, Brandon Body. Yeah, yep. And OBJ, I don't think he's ever been the same since that injury.
Names today. Don't quote me on it.
I want to get to this comment before I go, but the Barking Brown Show, thanks for making a comment. You wouldn't think Odell would still be this grand talking point, but honestly, the Browns are the ones continuing the conversation. In my opinion,
they had internal discussions. It's not even like an offer was made, and I highly doubt Andrew Berry's talking about a player that's not even going to be available till November.
And here's the thing. Now I want to go on my talking point. And to that quick point, clearly there's something in the water. Correct. Clearly, there's somebody saying something from the Brown side that's saying that they're interested in Odell Beckham. And I think we've all played sports sometime in our life, and I've tried to stress this before, but there are some times where there's a teammate that's really, really good, and we all love that teammate, but for some reason the outside perception of them, they think he's cocky, they think he's whatever the case may be. Well, clearly somebody doesn't agree that that's the case, because teammates are coming to him like willy-nilly, left and right. People are coming to his defense. So first thing, I disagree with you, Mac. I do believe that he'll take less money because, one, he did that with the Rams. Two, if he comes back here, he knows he's not playing to November, and everyone knows that, and including him, knows that he's not going to be able to get top dollar playing half the season, to your point. So I believe that it will be a 1-year deal, veteran minimum. So with him knowing that, which is the most realistic option, right? Remind me again, how did Odell Beckham end up on the Browns in the first place? It was traded. It was traded, right?
First round.
So that means he traded here. That means he didn't have a say here. That means he was forcibly sent over to Cleveland. You know what's different this time, Mac? He's coming out of his own will, out of his choice. Yeah, he talked bad to Von Miller, all this other stuff, but that's the Cleveland. That's a narrative about Cleveland for the NFL. So anytime the NFL could hear that for Cleveland, they eat it up. We don't even finish. That was a one-on-one conversation with Von Miller. We don't even know what happened. He probably said, "Don't go to Cleveland because who's taking snaps under center." That's probably, we don't know the full conversation. We don't. So what I'm saying to you is he's going to come here by his choice, knowing he's going to get paid less money. And you want to know a big point that I thought about right before this podcast? he would be willing to come here, which we know by kind of those Instagram comments between him and Myles Garrett, when Myles Garrett said, come home, the kids are miss you, a Jack Harlow reference. And he was like, who are you talking about, slime? And then Myles Garrett put an emoji with a phone with an arrow pointing to the phone. The biggest point that I thought about is his best friend isn't even on this team anymore. So it's not about like last time where he could say, well, at least Jarvis is there. No. There's smoke in the water with Jarvis being gone. So my thing is like, and now he's coming back to another situation where he realizes I don't even have to be the number one wide receiver because you have Amari Cooper now. You have another Coop. You had one in LA. Now you have one in Cleveland. So I'm looking at these things and I'm saying to myself, I understand he said a couple of comments, but before he was traded here against his will, and now you're adding the fact that he might actually take less money, and you put all of those pieces together, and it's like clearly someone in the front office, not only the team, but the front office is allowing this smoke. And so I'm thinking, if his teammates like him, offense and defense, and the front office likes him, and the owners like him, it's like, as fans, who on earth am I to say that I don't want him back because I don't like him? You know what I'm saying? It's clearly something that they like, and if they like locker room camaraderie, then I am all for that. But Ed,
Manny, I'm not a conspiracy theory guy, but since I'm dressed up here, I got one for you. If you're the Cleveland Browns, for instance, and I like what you said about why are they allowing this smoke to go out? If I'm the Cleveland Browns, with all the Deshaun Watson distractions and everything going on, why not just have this OBJ thing linger up, and every time something goes down with Deshaun, you just kind of bring it up. So at least you're talking and it's distracting, and you talk about something other than the serious allegations.
Like a literal smoke screen? Like a literal smoke screen?
Kind of. Literal. It's not too crazy. That's
PR 101.
I think Barking Braun's talking about the AB move about bringing Deshaun Watson back. They're saying definitely doesn't seem like an AB move, but ... So, but that's a good point. I mean, it could be so. I never think about that. It could be some.
Why
sort
let
of
it die?
mirage.
Like, I'm not saying they're putting it out there on purpose, but the fact that it keeps recirculating. If you're the Browns, this is probably if I'm Berea, I'd rather have Browns Twitter fighting about OBJ than fighting about what's going on with the quarterback. Sorry.
To your point, Ed. The same day, the 24th case, the civil accusation comes out.
Coincidence? I think
what?
not.
And it is weird.
Everybody was tweeting about it. FanDuel was tweeting jerseys and stuff like that of Odell. So go ahead, Mike. Sorry to interrupt you.
Like of all days that this is, and that's the Ed. As much as I want to like shoot down a conspiracy theory, like there's actually like some traction to this one, and that's kind of not. I didn't really think of it that way, but again, looking at it, why are we talking about Odell Beckham on June 6th when he's not going to be available in November? So, you know what I mean? Like that kind of, it doesn't really seem like an AB move, but, he's playing chess while the rest of the league.
Believe it or not, Mac, I actually think before the words come out sometimes. Only sometimes, though.
And well, I put it this way. That's toward the back half of the season. And I think he will be a little bit healthy, right? Coming toward the back half of the season. You don't know what injuries in the wide receiver room might happen at that time. Maybe what if David Bell isn't having the greatest first season as possible? You know what I mean? It'd be nice to, kind of move one in and, hey, we're
rookies hit the wall.
Bell with OBJ.
Rookies hit the wall. So
yeah, exactly. You know what I mean? Unless you're Jamar Chase or Justin Jefferson. But my thing is, those are edge cases. But I think you kind of flip it out if David Bell or back half of the season teams might be figuring it out, or you need a little bit of an extra, no pun intended, because they're really not juice, but like Jarvis. But you need a little extra juice back half of the season. Hey, flip OBJ in there in the wide receiver room. You know what I mean? With back half, with maybe Deshaun suspended 6 games, but now Deshaun comes back, and then all of a sudden, 3 games into him being back, you throw in OBJ. All I'm saying is, it's not as crazy as people make it seem when they say, "Oh, well, he's not coming back to November." Well, okay, Cam Akers didn't come back till for the LA Rams, and they didn't have a problem with that.
And Wyclef said he'll be gone till November.
And Wyclef said he'll be gone to November. So my thing is like, and you're bringing him back for cheap. If you were bringing back Odell Beckham back for like $12 million for 1 year, all right, I understand. Don't bring him in. Don't even talk to him. But if he says, "No, I'm playing only half the season. I'll take a veteran minimum. I want to be here. I choose to be here," and then I'll kind of revitalize. And by the way, who's the one fan base before we go to our next topic? Because who's the one fan base that he was defending himself against this whole entire time, this whole offseason on Twitter? Browns fans. Every single time a Browns fan tweeted at him and said, "Oh, OBJ, you're a diva," this, that, the other. OBJ does what? Picks up his phone and defends himself. I don't see him doing it against the Giants. Do you? I don't. Is he doing that for the Rams? I don't know. But it's just something with the Cleveland Browns where he's like, no, that's not true. One day you'll know all this other stuff. You want back. You want back in Cleveland, Brown. You want back in Cleveland. You want back in Cleveland. So we're going to move on to our next topic here, AFC North talk. We're going to talk about Lamar Jackson's contract and how that might affect the AFC moving forward. So we're going to have a little bit of a shorter show today. So this will be our last topic of the day before we go out. So we're going to be talking about, hey, what exactly moving forward? Lamar, some people are saying that it's the Baltimore Ravens holding out. Some people say that it's Lamar holding out for more money because he knows the cap is going to go up. I know what I think about this situation, but how exactly do you think that this kind of is going to play out? So, your thoughts really, because is it Baltimore? Is it Lamar really, wanting more money? What do you guys think?
I think it's 100% Lamar. Now, granted, like if it could be completely the other way, but looking at it, so Lamar doesn't have the stereotypical like agent. It's his mom. So it's somebody. Now, granted, I don't know anything about Miss Jackson, other than I'm sorry, but yeah, first place my mind literally went. But no, looking at it, she may or may not have the best relationship with NFL front offices, and obviously she's looking out for her son first and foremost, and probably this whole process. I doubt that she has like a high percentage, in terms of commission on her own child. So, she just wants her son to get paid. Now, Deshaun Watson got $230 million, completely reset the whole market. And looking at it, Lamar has a very kind of toss-up career in Baltimore. Now looking at it, 2019 season, he was the MVP. But what's his playoff stats? 68 passer rating, 3 touchdowns, 5 interceptions in 4 games. He's won 1 playoff game. So it's just, I mean, I don't blame the Ravens GM. Like, I don't really want to pay Lamar Jackson more than $230 million because that's how all these players are. They see who's top dog and they say, okay, and I'm sure that Lamar has this thought in his head that I was MVP in 2019. Like, I've made the playoffs every year except for this past year, which I was injured. So I deserve more money than Deshaun Watson, who hasn't played in a year and went 4-12 in 2020. So he wasn't at OTAs for a reason. John Harbaugh was so upset that he told the media, why don't you ask him about it? Yeah. So that tells me personally there's not a big relationship. Now, I don't know if anybody here listens to Cleveland Browns Daily on ESPN 850, but they touched on it to where the talk around the combine was Lamar Jackson's contract, and they were pretty surprised that not a lot more people are talking about this. But it's getting closer and closer because even Kyler Murray, came back into the building, and he's got better relationship with the Cardinals. So I believe that Lamar Jackson is really the only quarterback. I mean, outside of everything that's going on with Baker Mayfield, don't want to talk about that. But in terms of starting quarterbacks right now, Lamar's situation is the most unsure in the league because he could easily sit here and say, and with what happened with Baker, it kind of put every single starting quarterback on alert. Yeah. Your job can be gone at any moment. They could find anybody that's even remotely better and they could pull the trigger and the rug could be ripped out from under you. Now, not saying that, the Browns didn't have reasons to move on because they did. They upgraded. So every other team could look literally the exact same way. So I would say it's 100% on Lamar. He doesn't have too much proven stats to prove that he is the best quarterback in the league and should be rewarded with that financially. So, it's all on Lamar, and he didn't even show for OTA. So the situation's kind of getting worse and worse. And, it's going to be interesting to see if he's not paid by training camp, is this guy going to hold out? And if he holds out, I mean, yeah, I like Tyler Huntley, but it's a completely different rushing attack in Baltimore without Lamar Jackson. So,
and go ahead, Ed. Go ahead.
I'll be quick. I agree with everything Max said. The only thing you guys spoke about Miss Jackson, and I just want to say, I'm sorry, Lamar Jackson, but your contract ain't real. And it might not be real if he doesn't play well this season. I think if you're Baltimore, you might be hoping that he plays mediocre and it makes a decision maybe to move on, because I don't know. I think that, he won the MVP. It doesn't in the playoffs, it's a different animal. And then I think teams have kind of figured out how to beat the Baltimore Ravens. I mean, make him throw to the outside of the receivers that he doesn't use in the regular season. If it wasn't for Andrews, his tight end down the middle of the field, I mean, it's him running around and throwing to the tight end, which makes me mad about the Browns, because he's throwing it to him, and then yet the Browns can never stop their tight end. So that kind of frustrates me. But yeah, I think that and one thing too, if I'm Baltimore, and I think about this with Malik Willis down in Tennessee, where's Tannehill going to go? I mean, if it doesn't work out with Lamar, if I'm Baltimore, well, I mean, he's serviceable. He's, there's other quarterbacks that they could bring in to bridge, and they could draft. They've got a strong quarterback class coming out next year, led by C.J. Stroud from the Ohio State University.
C.J. Stroud.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know. I think there's going to be a lot of quarterbacks coming out, obviously, next year. The kid from Kentucky, shout out to Christian and Will Levis. So, I just think that if Lamar Jackson isn't the real deal and you don't want to pay him that big money, the best thing you can do is hopefully he doesn't have a great year. Because now if he has a great year like he did in 2019, then you're going to have to, you're gonna have to pay him. So that's my thoughts on that. But I'm glad the Cleveland Browns got Deshaun Watson over somebody like Lamar Jackson, because having a franchise quarterback, which I don't think Lamar ever was. I think that just like Vince Young came into the league and did some great things.
Cover of Madden, Vince Young as well. Another co-Madden cover.
Yeah, so that's the thing about Lamar. And believe me, I'm not going to be a Lamar hater or bash him. I think he's a really talented quarterback. I think he's got deficiencies that make it really hard for you counting on him, especially in the playoffs, to be that franchise quarterback. You look at teams like Cincinnati, Cleveland, Buffalo, Kansas City. Those all got franchise quarterbacks that I feel, year in and year out will have their teams in position to make Super Bowl runs. I don't know if I can say the same thing about Lamar Jackson, because he's kind of gimmicky in what you have to do with the offense. And maybe he's developed how to be, a more accurate passer. I don't know. I haven't seen it yet. And so, yeah. So that's
to your point. I mean, again, it's not. I think a lot of look. Lamar Jackson is a very good quarterback in the National Football League. He didn't win MVP for nothing, right? I mean, he I want to give credit where credit is due, and he just beats the Cleveland Browns. It's just in his DNA, coming back from the bathroom, whatever the case may be. He just beats the Cleveland Browns, and I'm annoying, and I'm annoyed of it. I'm tired of it. But my thing is, is he going to pull like a Dak Prescott kind of situation where you kind of like, you know what? You want me to do it? You want me to prove it? I'm gonna go in my next year, last year my deal, and you know what? I'm not gonna sign an extension right now. I'm gonna bet on me. I'm gonna go out there and I'm gonna ball out. The Baltimore Ravens, I think it would be naive to think that they're not like, oh, are you? Okay. We're gonna with what wide receivers? Rashad Bateman? Okay, you think you're gonna ball out with you're gonna blow us away with your numbers? And you just got your first kind of big injury last season. So it's like the Baltimore Ravens are kind of like, listen, we don't mind if you think you can, they're probably knocking on the door, making it look like, Lamar, please sign. But they're like, oh, if you don't want to sign, you don't want to sign, because they're saying to themselves, well, if you have a mediocre year, like Ed, you're talking about, or if it was Mac, I'm not sure, but if you have a mediocre year, they won't have to pay him as much. They can say, hey, listen, your contract is going to go way down. We saw what you did this year, mediocre year in 2022. We saw what you did last year, which was we got injured. You were 8-3 and all this other stuff, but you were injured, hey. And so it's not a coincidence to me. It feels weird for the Baltimore Ravens to say, hey, you know what? We're going to do the best we can to keep you here and sign you long term. Why didn't you get him any wide receivers? You put all your draft picks basically to the defense. And now you got Ravens fans saying, oh, Rashad Bateman is a fantasy wide receiver number one. Take him in the first round. He's going to blow up. You see what I'm saying? And then I hear in some spaces that they want Lamar. They're like, oh, no, Lamar's going to hold out for his money. even kind of like what Andrew's talking about here, Russell wasn't asking for 250 for 5 years. You know what? Deshaun Watson, 230 million guaranteed. Lamar, get your money, 60 million a year. Really? Like real? Do you want Lamar Jackson, your quarterback of your team, to have $60 million a year? Like, as a Ravens fan, I get it. He 8-3. It was just him. I get that. Madden cover MVP, but you might not want to put $60 million into your quarterback when who are your wide receivers? And we already saw him last year. This is my last point, but last year we saw, and I want to give credit to where credit is due, because Lamar tried his absolute hardest to throw the ball. Like, if you were watching those games last year, a lot of times he didn't want to just scramble out of the pocket. He wanted to like force a throw or two, or really kind of show that he could stand in the pocket. Because again, it's about that contract. You want to complete that narrative. But at the end of the day, it's those legs, baby. That's what people can't defend against, really. That's what makes you more difficult than the other quarterbacks. So I think you're going to see him try to pass the ball a lot this season, try to stand in the pocket and throw the ball a lot this season. Now, that could either be a good thing or a bad thing. I think, if I had to guess, it's a bad thing, because who are you throwing to? So I think the running game, you're going to have J.K. Dobbins back, Gus Edwards back. I think you're going to be running the ball. You have a new center that you just drafted in Linderbaum, so I believe you're going to be running the ball. But hey, I don't know. I think that's kind of where I am at that. Anybody have any other thoughts on that?
I 100% actually. So plot twist. I agree with Ed.
Wow.
Ravens have a pretty good roster, surrounding him. Now, there's questions in the wide receiver room. I disagree on Rashard Bateman. I really do like his tape, Manny. And I know we've talked about this back and forth, but I'll put myself out there and I'll say, I think Rashard Bateman
against Greedy Williams, though. I say against Denzel.
I don't know. Greg Newsome fits as well. So, and I have I think Greg Newsome and Denzel Ward are going to be the top cornerback tandem next year.
True.
But anyway, if you look outside of the wide receiver room, they just upgraded on defense. They got some pass rushers, Travis Jones, as well as David Ajabo. Now you have the safety, Kyle Hamilton, who was an absolute steal. I have still no idea how he was there, late in the first round. And then, just like how you said, they got that center. J.K. Dobbins is back. So, they have that run game. They have that defense. They bolstered the secondary. So, they just need just a little bit in the passing game, and they can do some damage.
Yeah.
And with Justin Tucker, you're winning any game within 3 points.
Within 3 points, which is the NFL average. Yeah.
So, and just like how you said, it's, so it's going to be like they don't absolutely need Lamar. And just like Manny, you made this point too. They're knocking on the door telling him to please sign, but they're also at the same time like, hey, the world's not over if you don't ball out, because there's other options. So
yeah, that's very true. Well, guys, shorter show today. I have some duties to attend to, but great content. I think we had great discussions today, talking a little bit about Ernest Johnson's extension, the running back room, OBJ rumors. I'm sure we're going to get more OBJ rumors before the summer's out here, because, whether like it was like Ed saying, I mean, is it the mirage or whatever? Is it truthful? Who knows? And we're going to be really interested to see how Lamar does this season. So thank you guys so much for tuning in.
Shout out, Manny. Shout out to Mandy, who was our Down with the Browns hoodie winner. She put that on Twitter, and it was huge.
It was huge.
Get your Down with the Browns merchandise. It's good. And also soft, very soft. Look at that right there. That is magnificent for the audience that are just listening to this without seeing it. That is the most spectacular shirt I've ever seen, besides the Ed and Columbus ones.
No, those shirts aren't that good. Buy literally anything but Ed shirts. Hashtag anything but Ed
buy
shirts.
A coffee mug or a pen or something.
Coffee mugs are fire.
We appreciate the support, but it's Ed and Columbus ones. Those are top notch, guys.
Hey, great show, guys, and as always, go Browns.
Go Browns.